Mr. Grant, good morning.
Good morning, my friend.
Happy to be here.
Happy to be here as well.
Welcome back to the Long and Thick podcast, where two music misfits help you navigate the noise and cut through the bullshit in the health and wellness space.
Bada fucking boom.
Bam.
3 trends.
3 trends.
That's the goal of today.
Okay.
Not 3 trends. We're not doing 3 trends. 3
would be a lot,
trends.
I would be a lot bigger if we were doing 3 trends. That'd be so great.
Man, I don't know what I would turn into, like a bag of stardust or something. I don't think my body would handle it.
I would like to go to a caricature artist to make you a giant version of yourself, just so I can imagine it. Yeah.
Me too. Things we're going to touch on today. The structure in which we're trying to go about this is talk about a trend that we've been noticing, talk about the good and bad, at least from our perspectives and some of our anecdotal evidence or
experience.
All those things. If you have thoughts about any of these, feel free to share them. This is a open forum. We're very open people. So we're going to get into
pineapple.
What's that?
Upside down pineapple.
Well, no. That's where I shut the door, kick your ass out of Bikini Bottom. Weight loss drugs, number 1.
Yeah.
The good and the bad. Optimal training. The good and the bad. And then the skewed expectations that come from being a social media driven country, I'll say. And how that bullshit and, is presented and what that does, the good and the bad. So round 1, weight loss drugs.
Weight loss drugs. I think we both have experience, not with directly, but with clients that have delved in or at least have a budding or very high interest in it. It, no matter what, is a overall positive thing. If you look at it just as a overall perspective, our obesity rates have never been higher. Us as a populace having every other person being, quantifiably obese is a problem.
Right.
Granted, this is propped up by a bunch of other factors with agriculture, food production, all of these things. So having something that is very robust and helps with weight loss, remarkably so, is a net positive.
I agree. I do agree.
So bringing mortality rates down, obesity rates down, always a good thing. And, something like semaglutide, and now there's even more advanced versions of it that are even more effective at starting your weight loss journey, dropping fat, all of these things. All that is great. Unfortunately, it really depends on the person who's adopting it and their lifestyle and all their other habits around it. If they're just an unhealthy person and they are taking this as a silver bullet scenario, while it might work, there's going to be just as much deficits on the other side too, because there's not a lot of any other healthy habits to prop up the end results.
So working, meaning weight has been lost. But when we think about the bird's eye of overall health, not necessarily checking all the boxes.
Sure. Yeah. It's lowering your risk of heart disease because of obesity. Great. Sure. But if someone is still markedly unhealthy because of how powerful these compounds are, it's still going to look for energy sources to consume in the deficit that you're creating for your body. And this comes at a high cost of catabolism. Like, it's going to go after muscles just as much as it's going to go after fat. So if someone does not have a resistance training program to stave that off, it could be pretty catastrophic. And what's worse is if it's, the person just wants to see the scale weight go down, and maybe aren't markedly obese, it's going to be even worse because they're going to be a pretty much frail bag of bones on the other side of it, because they are not trying to maintain the one thing that can keep them healthy, which is their muscle tissue and their bone density. So if they're just looking at it as a quick, I can be my skinniest, or I can get the number down without the other habits to support the health on the other side, I think it's going to be a net negative long-term for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's too new of a compound. We don't know the long-term ramifications. So that becomes a scary proposition.
Right.
And sorry to cut you off. It's just the last little bit is, I think that we can both kind of confirm that a lot of the people that are taking this on could just as easily benefit from a couple lifestyle alteration choices. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where the bad comes in, is one, the long-term deficit of only relying on this drug to have your body eat itself to limit your appetite. Mm-hmm. And then it's giving someone else a crutch that doesn't need a crutch.
Sure.
That could just have some better habits to move the needle forward and their weight loss, their health journey, all of that. So I think it could be a roadblock for a lot of other people and set them farther back in their health than they realize.
Yeah, I think it really gets pretty interesting in my experience, because the first thing I want to touch on is that I feel from my experience seeing this advertised and knowing clients and patients who have used this, they're more so women, because women are violently bombarded with being sexualized in every way, shape, and form. And so when your physical representation of yourself does not meet the societal, standards, you feel that shit all the live long day. And I don't know what that feels like outside of like my example of that being like a super skinny, 12-year-old and being made fun of for my ribs showing and things like that. Like
super skinny 22-year-old.
There you go. You know the battle.
Yeah.
That it doesn't feel good, but I don't know what it feels like to be, in that body or have that role in society. And so, that sucks. And that's a lot to battle. And so that's, something not to be taken lightly. Every person that I have known to use some form of this has made those, changes, or interestingly enough, has either been like really trying and it just wasn't happening. Mm-hmm. And that's where it gets a little tricky, because we're talking about fighting somebody's experience and saying like, well, you weren't in a, caloric deficit enough.
Sure.
And if they're like, no, I was, it becomes this like, okay, no,
there's only so many explanations for that. And generally it's, you weren't actually in the deficit, period.
Right. And what I can appreciate about this is that it gives you that momentum, and you start to see the thing that you very well probably have been working on.
Sure.
And it wasn't happening for whatever reason. I don't love to play blame game, but at the end of the day, we're all responsible for ourselves.
Yes.
Like if I'm not putting on weight, it's because I'm not eating enough.
Right.
There's nothing else really to blame for myself.
Yeah. And conversely, if you're not losing the weight that you want to lose, you're either not managing your diet the right way or you're not moving enough. There's only so many explanations when it comes down to it.
Right. Even with like very complicated bills of health, right? With Hashimoto's or other things that just make it more complex.
Sure.
There's very, very few cases where that is so much of a driving force that your caloric deficit doesn't change something.
Right.
I don't know that I've seen it, but it's hard to say, because you're not with somebody 24/7 and you can't like prove them wrong,
Right.
And at the end of the day, it really is about genuinely helping somebody. Mm-hmm. So I would say overall good. Yeah. Like, I don't know. There are the pieces of it that you mentioned. Like, we don't know really what's going to happen, but like life is sort of short and like, fuck,
Yeah.
like,
yeah. I mean, it really is a case by case basis. And if someone has been struggling, if they are actively trying and they just seem to not be able to get their rhythm or their momentum the right way, it can be a great kickstart, like you said.
Yeah.
I do have a couple clients that have already taken it and they have again, been able to kickstart their journey on top of having a better diet and a better resistance training program. So you're comprehensively working at this overall problem from a multitude of angles, which is going to be beneficial.
Yeah.
I've also known a couple people that just did not react to the drug very, very well. You know, it made them feel nauseous, sick, vomiting spells. So it's just case by case basis, you know, but you know, with the obesity problem in America, yes. I mean, sure, is there a pharmaceutical company making money hand over fist because of this? Sure.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. You know, there's always money to be made somewhere at our expense.
Yeah.
But if we can bring overall obesity and morbidity levels down with that profit margin,
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. Yeah. Any other thoughts around that you want to sort of touch on?
That basically covers it all. It's just, I would say to anyone listening that your health should be done on your own autonomy first. Your habit should be improved first.
Yeah.
And I would not look for a drug or a compound or an injection to have a wholesale change on your life, and that just be the only thing that you're resting your potential on.
Yes.
So it's that we're always going to be preaching that like these need to be systems and habits to set you up for long-term success. And this is not something that you want to be able to lean on long-term.
Yeah, well said. Love that. Moving along here, let's talk about optimal training. We have it in air quotes because boy, oh boy, there's a lot of opinions on, I mean, just to capture your attention. It sort of bleeds into like the, you know, Instagram, TikTok capture you and get you to watch the video, the best knee training, the best, how to blah, blah, blah. Or you were showing earlier, like, the video of somebody doing like a curl, and you know, these little nuanced cues are honestly good, but the difference is that like my arm is different than yours. And unless we're in person, there's certain things that I say when I'm helping somebody train that are so bizarre just to make it make sense for them.
Sure.
And when you see, I know you can relate to this, when you see the light go off and they're like, oh, I felt it, that weird, like hold the guitar like this, hold the platter, like call your aunt, like whatever thing. They're like, oh yeah, like now I feel it.
The dots get connected, you know, the wires no longer crossed kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't get that in a video. Like you can't. You might, like maybe you've gotten lucky and there's been some helpful things. I would say overall bad instead of good is my lean, only because it furthers this like looking for the cheat, you know, idea and like foundation. And I don't like that. Like you can't escape hard work. You can't escape a heavy lift to try to like maximize hypertrophy. You can't escape long eccentrics to change connective tissue. That shit sucks ass. Like there's not like, you can't just optimize it. You can if you're going to optimize and keep things very, very difficult and get the right stimulus, hell yeah, let it rip. But I feel like the thing that's trying to be sold is some type of like roundabout workaround way, and you're missing on that.
Yeah, you're trying to outscience the hard work. You're trying to make it so perfectly efficient. You may need to tighten that a little.
This guy?
Yeah, the other way. Yeah. Squeeze.
Righty loosey, lefty loosier. There we go.
But no, you can't outscience hard work. And your body will always, whether it be adapting to any new stimulus, whether it be mental, physical, you have to put yourself in a strenuous zone for it to adapt. And like you touched on, there's these little things you see on the internet where they might change a joint angle by 5 degrees. And that goes from their explanation of like, this is an X, this is a bad curl, to like, check mark, your arms will blow up tomorrow.
Yes.
And that's so lame. But that's just, you know, we'll touch on this on the third piece of just the expectation of the internet. But in terms of optimal training, I think the positive benefit is that there's been a trend last, say, 3 years where people are more interested in the mechanistic side of things, the reasons why, better physiological understanding of the body, which is great. I mean, especially on the hypertrophy, muscle building, bodybuilder side. But we can't just take that as a small supplement to a hard-working approach, because it immediately just gets shoved over into this thing is now the only way that this works. And it becomes immediately tribal again, which is what we've talked about, is that it becomes incredibly divisive already.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh, well, this is the only way that this can happen. And it's just like, well, no, the human body is remarkably adaptable. It can do any number of things with any number of stimulus, as long as it's good stimulus.
Right.
And that is the problem, is that we have now been, relegated down to these cults of which versions of optimal is it. Is it very high volume training? Is it very low volume training? Is it very stretch oriented training only? And you'll see the trends shift almost on a week by week basis. Like the biggest influencers will latch onto this stuff,
of course,
and tout it like this is the only absolute. And that is a net negative overall.
I agree. It's it is a barrier to training. Sure. And being people that are well versed in the training space and have, knowledge on this stuff, I can only imagine trying to get into fitness, just the lifting side. Forget, we'll take away, we're not even talking about the optimizing sleep and nutrition and other things. Just like the lifting component, you start to talk about this. Your phone's like, hey, bitch, I got some more for you. And then it keeps shooting you stuff.
Yeah. The algo does the algo thing.
That's right. You see all this stuff, and now you are like, oh God, I didn't know that. And how do I remember? Wait, now I have like 48 saved reels that you're trying to shuffle through in the middle of your workout. Like, your head's not there. You have no confidence. I would be like, you know what? I'm good. This is too complicated. I thought it was like, maybe if I go and do some hard work, that's it. That is it.
Yeah.
More or less. If you're doing nothing, forget about the 3-degree shift in your wrist. Like, it is irrelevant.
Right. And as you pointed out earlier too, is when you're really looking to, I'm just say this in a separate version of optimize. When you're trying to optimize things for your own leverage, that's an entirely different thing.
100%.
Everybody's body, their joint angles, their bone lengths, their tendon connective locations, muscle belly length. Everyone is so different. So it is a unfortunate thing when someone that you look up to says, well, as long as you just move it this way, this is the ultimate way of doing things. This is absolutely optimal. Someone's body might not be able to come close to that.
Yeah.
And it might feel completely foreign and ultimately hurt them in the long run.
Right.
So constantly shilling out these absolutes, I think, is absolutely a net negative.
Yeah.
The small positive benefit is that people do have a deeper interest in how the body works. But in the same breath, they're looking for a way to do the absolute minimum for the highest result. And that's also not how the body works.
Yeah. I would say my last thought on this is like, when I think of, optimal training, I think a lot of this stuff is marketed in a way that is trying to capture the viewer in a way that makes them feel like they're training for the NFL. And when we're talking about professional athletes or extremely high performers in a sport of some flavor, like, those people's lives are training. Like, that is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the population that even still, this video is not going to help because of all those things you just mentioned, how different they are from, the person next to them doing the same exercise might elicit a very different result. And then we talk about the specificity of an adaptation. Like, what are you even trying to adapt? Like, I can just fight all these things. Like, it's better. Why? You're talking about one aspect of it. Like, what if I don't need my bicep bigger on the, medial aspect? Like, how is that relevant to like most people? It's not. Right. And these little tweaks are so, again, it's just a attempt to capture somebody's view and like and share and like, and some degree of, I know more than somebody else because, Joe Schmo told me, and it's
just the hook factor. It has to be completely absolute, all or nothing. I have the absolute best. Anything else that you've believed or thought to up to this point, absolute worst.
Yes.
And it's just damaging overall. It breeds more confusion. It's going to keep a lot of people in proverbial quicksand on some hamster wheel, chasing these absolutes, these, these zeniths of all things training that these random people have seemingly figured out. And again, we've talked about this before. It doesn't matter what you actually know, it's what your influence and the height of your voice can bestow
and suggests that,
Yeah. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And again, we are in our own ways similar practitioners, but we're trying to change that scope of like, listen, we know the best thing that's worked for us. And we have a group of people that look to us that we've also been able to mirror the same result. But we're never going to be the person to be like, this is the only way and the best way. And that's it.
Yeah. But I really, the more I'm exposed to in terms of the body and working with individual real humans, like you can't hold on to that stuff. It just doesn't last.
Right.
So yeah, I would say overall bad.
Yeah. It's a net negative for me, dog.
Resounding herd. And we'll touch on skewed expectations a little bit more and just the bullshit that is casted out and how we're already leaning bad. We'll try to find some good nuggets in there for not being
for the sake of balance, but
for just being Oscars, just hurling garbage out into the ethos. But yeah, the joys of Instagram are real and also few and far between at the same time.
Very much so. My chair's gonna squeak. Oh, all right.
Squeak free, baby. Yeah, man. I mean, there's third trend, and this really bleeds into many things. We called it skewed expectations and bullshit on Instagram and TikTok and everything else. Good or bad?
I mean, I think it's wholly bad. As we talked about off camera, is that the small marginal good is the internet has had a remarkable quality to advance human performance at an alarming rate over the last like 10, 20 years.
Sure.
Prior to wholesale videos on the internet and people being able to exhibit feats of any sort, a lot of it was hearsay.
True.
Random record of these events. So it kept the progress stalled in comparison to recent years. Now that we have, millisecond by millisecond changes in the human record and registry of what is capable, it then constantly refreshes our frame of reference of what we can do or what we should strive to be able to do to either match or exceed those barriers.
That's actually really interesting. As you're saying that, I'm thinking about the positive I see in that more so than anything initially. Like the first time, a mile record was broken. Like now we are more acutely aware of, oh my God, that guy just, overhead press 400 pounds. Like that's bananas.
Sure.
But yeah, you're right. Like you wouldn't be exposed to any of that stuff. The good and beauty in that is that it challenges your limiting beliefs in a way that is,
it's inspirational in a way.
It is. The caveat is that there's been so much footage across, a wide spectrum of professions, the Dove ads that came out that were like, hey, let's show you how doctored shit is. And then you have campaigns in Target and Neutrogena and whatever that are like, here, we're actually just going to show you this person as they are and not change them in a way that is like so wildly a lie, right? Because that's the part of it like, oh, wow, look, he pressed 405 overhead. Did he? Fake, right?
Sure.
Like all the comments. And so you at the same time, it's like, it challenges that, but you're also always questioning like, what is even real?
Yes. And I think that comes because everything is so curated to be as close to 100% remarkable and positive, as close as you can get it to, that we always are constantly subconsciously looking for the shoe to drop, or at least imagining where is the lie, where is the inconsistency here? Just because, again, no one it takes a lot to be your real self and to admit that not everything's perfect, that failures happen constantly, that most of the things that happen in everyone's life are honestly pretty unremarkable.
Right.
But we just truncate everything down to you only see the highs.
Yep.
And I think that is ultimately the problem, is because what we're seeing now is people are really leaning into that, really capitalizing on that keyhole view of perfection. And not only are they showing certain aspects of their life, but they're also manipulating different things of their physical form to give you a more perfect notion than what's actually happening or plausible or attainable.
Yeah.
And that's where the whole thing gets very sticky.
Yeah.
And while you might see a man with a physique that you're like, yo, like, this is my North Star, I want to look like that. And that person may be selling you a bill of goods that this was attainable in a far shorter time than actuality.
Yeah.
They may have done things to wildly enhance their physique, which is what we're seeing very prevalent on the internet. And it's not just what was cagey in the 90s and early 2000s, but people are openly advocating for performance enhancing drugs and physique enhancing drugs at a crazy young age.
Yeah, it's alarming.
It's very scary. People are not looking at the long game of how much damage this can do permanently to your endocrine function, your hormone function, your organs. Topic for another time, but it's still very prevalent.
Yeah.
And what's worse is that people are not able to, like you said, trust what they're seeing, and it's leaving them confused when they start trying to pursue these things. They may have been motivated in the beginning, but then when they don't see the progress that these professionals or influencers are promising, then what are you left with? You may have spent money on something. You're like, that was a ripoff. You've spent time. You're now dejected. You're demoralized. You're not getting what you thought you were going to get. So that is a huge problem of how the entire internet is comprised now. That it's a business. It is just influence to sell something.
Yep.
And it's tough.
It is really tough. The things that you touched on there that really get highlighted to me are the age, like how you see a lot of transformation videos, like a 16-year-old that's like, I put on 45 pounds in 3 months. Here's my, right. How'd you do that? PB&J and Kellogg's and like
a gallon of milk a day.
No, sir. Like, no, sir. And so I think it's a shame because myself included have become so cynical of what I'm looking at that I'm like probably bullshit. There's probably some hidden thing within here. We know better as professionals in the space, but like you said, somebody that sees like a 3-month program, 30 days to hit your middle splits. I'm like, brother, there is no chance. Yeah, if you go under anesthetic and I snip everything in between your thighs, like, sure, yeah, you'll be, Macaroni Jones. But like, otherwise, it just is not real. Right. Like, and it's such a shame that people are the prey to this. I would agree that it is overarchingly negative feeling, but that's where I would challenge listeners, ourselves, to be really choosy with who you follow. Like, pick the people that are showing real stuff, real-time results. I mean, you tell everybody that you train with, like, hey, these are our small incremental gains. Like, this is what it is. It's not, but then you look back after a year, not 3 months. You still make progress in 3 months if you're consistent.
Some of them added over 100 pounds to a particular lift.
Yeah, but that's crazy.
Just because it's like grains of sand in the hourglass, like so tiny.
Yep.
But that's the slow and steady wins the race principle.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, just telling people to really be mindful and very skeptical with what they're choosing to consume and what they're kind of filing into the potential in their brain. And just really understand that the best things in your body are going to take a long time. And it's compounding interest.
Yep.
Things get better the longer that you're doing it. But yeah, I get people all the time, well, I want to lose this much poundage in weight and I want to gain this much muscle in 3 months. And I'm like, you need to get off the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do that in a year.
Sure.
But And that's if we're lucky.
Exactly.
That's if every mark is hit perfectly. But yeah, it's just, it's not sexy. Working on the body and having wholesale change is not easy. It's not sexy.
Nope.
It takes a lot of focus, discipline. You're going to have wandering deviations all the time. And you just hope that you're able to keep with it for a year or more to really see the positive benefit of it. But you know, it's really bad when you have no idea what you're looking at or what's possible because you're constantly blasted with these sensationalized things of like, this too could be you. And it's like, well, it could be, but you are starting now.
Yeah.
And either this person has been in the game a very long time, has adopted some very robust additive principles, or the other thing that we've not really touched on is genetics are a bitch.
Facts.
Some people just won the lottery.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite things is like God clearly has favorites, you know,
See them.
and exactly.
You, pal.
And there are people that don't have the best shot at it.
Yeah.
Like myself, I get comments now, thankfully and humbly, that people are like, I would love to have your genetics. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't know what I had to do to get to this point.
Yeah.
Or someone else was born almost out of the womb with a better starting point and has to do a fraction of the work to also look better.
Yeah. And blow you out of the water. And that's just like making peace with that that is a reality versus this idea that's sold to you. One thing I want to throw a curveball into this that I don't think we were really accounting for. I
can't hit the curve, dude.
You're going to hit this one is when it comes to like pain, like do this to fix this. Those things are more often than not just hot garbage.
Yes.
And again, because it comes down to like the individual at hand and like how many, you know, compounding factors there can be for your back pain and your knee pain and your whatever pain or lack of function from XYZ. Like, I hope genuinely that there are things that have been put out, and I know that there are, but if you're somebody listening and you're like, no, I've someone put this thing for like a back stretch and it really helped. That's fucking awesome.
Sure.
I love that. Like that genuinely makes me happy. I've put things out that are like that. And the reality is though, when it comes to
talking about corrective measures
and like getting a full scope of what's going on, like that is so much more involved. Like you gotta see somebody. Do not look to the internet. Do not look to it to fix what's going on. You still need people. There's so many other things that you are probably not accounting for that can be contributing to your issue that the video that you're watching doesn't know and doesn't care. It's just like, here, do this, and then you're going to be better. It's like,
click this link afterward.
And then sign up for my program. Yeah. So steer clear of that stuff. And if you haven't and it worked out for you, I genuinely am very happy for you. I'm not like bitter and sour about it by any means. But we
want the best for everybody. And if something works and checks the box and like this was 100% improvement for me,
love
great.
It.
And those things can happen and will happen.
Right.
But the likelihood is a lot lower than it should be just because it's constantly just swill pedaling out there.
Yeah.
Let me flip this on you too. So we're talking about consuming sensationalized content and what that can do. Let's talk about if you yourself are trying to add your progress to the space and you're proud of what you've done, however that may look. We are starting to see, unfortunately now, because of the contrasting view of people that have had surgeries or performance enhancements, things like that look like athletes or titans or stage ready bodybuilders. We're seeing people that have put in a remarkable amount of work, male, female, doesn't matter, just get shit on. Dude. On the internet.
Yeah.
Give me your take.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up. Like there was a video I saw the other day. It was a guy that was like, maybe this was his way of fishing. You really never know. But I'm very appreciative of people that share stuff like this. It was like something along the lines of, I've been training for 8 years and this is what I look like in the morning. Like, and the physique was not, magazine worthy, so to speak.
Yeah, nor should it be.
Sure. Yeah. And exactly. That's the thing. And the amount of hatred that is spewed, like it was like 7 years, no, 7 days, check. Like you have no idea. You literally, when you look at you don't know what his blood work looks like. You don't know his health history, like his family stuff, all of it.
Baseline, all of it.
There are so many things you have zero clue about. And that person very well could be stronger, healthier. Just because they don't look the way that you think they ought to, there's probably a good chance that they are better off than you, the viewer, looking and criticizing it. And it's such a shame that stuff just gets shit on.
Yeah. And unfortunately too, if you like go through the emphasized comments and popularity, it's those incredibly seething, hateful comments that get jocked all the way up.
They're like, like this, if this guy should die. And you're like, what the hell?
Right.
Like,
and it's just like, yo, this person did the hard work. And just because they don't, like you said, look magazine, cover worthy, that somehow invalidates the entire pursuit and how he feels day to day.
Yeah.
And that's got to be such a shitty feeling, and that, like you brought up earlier, I mean, doubly so for like the female audience.
Yeah.
Because I mean, just with hormonal shifts and just societal pressure, all that kind of stuff, like, your body's going to change on a day by day basis. Someday you're going to wake up, you're like, that is sick. Other days you're like, oh, I want to fucking kill myself. Terrible. And that's the same thing with the human body. And that's another way that the internet has kind of just twisted this whole thing around, is because when we wake up, I mean, as long as our diet was in check for like a week, we may have like a really sick, lean morning.
Sure. And
you're like, yo, that is dope. But other than that, like everything that you see on the internet has been posed. It has been flexed. It has been,
tanned and
possibly digitally altered to look a certain way.
Sure.
And that is constantly reinforcing these unrealistic expectations to the consuming audience that doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
And we're seeing so much of the internet be less real, which is just hurting people long term.
Yeah. Big advocate of blood work, big advocate of the things that are beneath your eyes. Like you don't know the shape of somebody's organs. You don't know, like it's all just darkness in there. You don't know what kind of shape those things are in unless you go and check them out. And watching a 10-second video, you have literally no idea whether they've been training or not. You can make some educated guesses, but at best that's all that they are. And you're just better off not. And how much easier is it for you to be like, hey man, good job. That's awesome. If you've been consistent for 7 years and that's what you look like.
Sick.
Who cares?
Right.
Like leave it alone. It's such a bummer to me that I do feel like there is a tiny bit of a shift, and maybe this is, again comes down to like who I follow and who I choose to engage with and those types of things that are leaning more that way. They're more about the like real stuff.
Yeah.
And being,
and to your point about blood work too, is like the people that look magazine ready or stage ready to get to that point, oddly enough, ironically, despite them looking like a Greek god or goddess, they're on death's door. To get yourself to look like that is markedly unhealthy.
Right.
Your hormone regulation is completely fucked.
Yep.
Your body shouldn't be that low on fat all the time.
Yeah.
And the methods that they may have employed to get to that point are also unhealthy. So it's just this smoke and mirrors thing that's just wild for the internet.
It's the Liver King, right? The folks that are like, I'm ancestral and this is why I look like a bear that has just like gone through a gladiator tournament like 24/7. Like no one back then looked like that. Right. Like no chance.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say overall bad. There are some good little nuggets to be found, but you got to dig.
To locomote you forward, to like be like, okay, I can move myself in this direction.
Yeah.
Just to get you on the path. Great.
Sure.
But it quickly becomes a snowball of bullshit the more you sit there and scroll and consume. And, we're always going to lean just like, listen, find good, scalable habits that are actually healthy for you, that actually provide value and positivity and overall health growth, and just scale them up over time. It's a trudge, it's a slow burn, but this is very much about feeling your best when you're 30, 40, 50, 60 and beyond. And not just looking at the next 2 or 3 years for you to have, you know, chiseled abs or the perfect looking ass or things like that.
Yeah. At the expense of burning every bridge around you. So you're on an island and you're like, well,
and have dog shit blood work to boot.
No, thank you. Yeah. That being said, if it comes easy, it goes easy. Like,
I like that.
Yeah. Do the work. Any other thoughts you want to add in?
No, I mean, I think it pretty much covers it. I think, you know, there's blessings and curses in each of those 3 things. And I just think as a people, as, you know, human record will show, it's just, we just need to get our heads out of our phones.
Yes.
Live a little more, get outside more, you know, commiserate with our fellow man and woman, and just focus on movement and quality exercise. And it seems very simple, but it's really not. It's
fucking hard.
It's hard to maintain, but the systems are very simple.
Yes.
And it's that easy.
Hell yeah. Love it, man. Well, viewers, listeners, all of the above and below, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next time.
Till next time on The Long and Thick.
Amen.